I recently found myself in the throes of marital turmoil after discovering my wife's infidelity, an event that shattered the foundation of our family. At 31 years old, I am confronted with the stark reality of betrayal, while my wife, Deidre, who is 27, now stands at the center of a storm that threatens to engulf everything we've built together. For clarity's sake, I'll refer to myself as Dave, while my wife shall remain Deidre. Our family comprises two beautiful children, a 4-year-old daughter named Sammy and a 2-year-old son named Timmy. Our journey began nearly 6 years ago, when Deidre and I exchanged vows, promising to weather life's storms together. Our story unfolds against the backdrop of a successful career for me, although I'll refrain from delving into specific details. Deidre and I crossed paths during her final semester of college, and our connection was instantaneous. Within 13 months, we found ourselves standing at the altar, pledging our lives to each other. Together, we embarked on a journey that led us to the East Coast, where we spent 4 eventful years and welcomed our children into the world. Earlier this year, a career opportunity beckoned, offering me a chance to manage one of our company's offices, conveniently situated within a stone's throw of both our hometowns. The prospect of returning home filled us with excitement, especially with children in tow. Our parents, beaming with joy, eagerly anticipated the opportunity to be closer to their grandchildren. My parents, Deidre's mother, and my younger brother still reside in the area, forming a tight-knit support network. However, Deidre's father passed away before our paths crossed, leaving a void that could never be filled. Upon our return, we faced the decision of where to reside. Instead of purchasing a new house, we opted to move into our family home, nestled amidst 3 acres of pristine land, with a tranquil creek meandering through the wooded expanse. This historic abode, steeped in family history, holds a special place in our hearts. My parents, having recently transitioned to a 55-plus community, graciously offered to rent us the family home, envisioning it as a cherished legacy to be passed down to future generations. Despite their reluctance to accept rent, I insisted, knowing that the financial contribution would benefit them in their retirement years. As the torchbearers of family tradition, my brother and I embraced the responsibility of preserving the legacy entrusted to us. However, maintaining a historic home posed unique challenges, requiring specialized expertise. Thankfully, our long-standing relationship with a local contracting company specializing in historic renovations provided a solution. The owner, a seasoned professional with a keen eye for detail, meticulously assessed the property's needs and offered an estimate for the required repairs. If you browse the reviews online for this establishment, you'll find they boast an impressive 82% 5-star rating, with 16% 4 stars, amassed from nearly 700 reviews. Such high praise is rare for businesses of this nature, indicating a level of quality that sets them apart. A few weeks after receiving the estimate, the company commenced repairs swiftly and efficiently, leaving the project area spotless at the end of each day. Both my wife and I were thoroughly satisfied with their professionalism and the quality of their work. The repair work was primarily carried out by 3 craftsmen from the company, with one individual, whom I'll refer to as Brock for this account, taking the lead on most of the projects at our home. Brock, a personable and courteous individual around my age, quickly earned our trust with his dedicated work ethic. My daughter even affectionately dubbed him the window man as she observed him through our second-story windows while he diligently worked on the exterior repairs. With all repairs completed on schedule, we settled into our newly renovated home, which quickly became a beloved space for my wife and kids. Furthermore, I was content with my new job, and life seemed to be back on track. However, this sense of tranquility was abruptly disrupted during an innocent conversation with my daughter. While spending time together in the backyard, my daughter, displaying her exceptional intellect as always, engaged me in conversation. Suddenly, she dropped a bombshell, casually mentioning that she had seen her mommy napping with the window man. It's essential to note that my daughter is undeniably gifted, a fact recognized by all who meet her. We had her tested before our relocation, and she scored exceptionally high, affirming her intellectual prowess at just 4 years old. I could feel the weight of the revelation my daughter had shared pressing down on me as I followed my wife inside. The air felt heavy with tension, and I braced myself for what was to come. As soon as we were alone, my wife turned to me with a forced smile, but her eyes betrayed her nervousness. I could see the unease lurking beneath the surface, despite her attempt to appear composed. She began speaking in a casual tone, asking about how the kids had been while she was out. It was as though she was trying to maintain a facade of normalcy, but I could sense the tension building in the air. I struggled to keep my composure, knowing that the conversation would soon take a serious turn. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what I knew I had to do. With a heavy heart, I confronted her about what our daughter had told me. As the words left my lips, I watched her expression shift from feigned nonchalance to shock and panic. It was clear that she had not expected me to know, and for a brief moment, I saw a flicker of guilt in her eyes before she quickly masked it with defiance. She denied everything at first, insisting that there must have been some misunderstanding. But as I pressed her for answers, her facade began to crumble, and the truth came pouring out. She confessed to having an affair with the window man, admitting that it had been going on for several months. I felt a surge of anger and betrayal wash over me as her words sank in. How could she do this to our family, to our children? I struggled to contain my emotions, fighting the urge to lash out in anger. Instead, I remained calm, determined to get to the bottom of the situation. I demanded to know how long it had been going on, how it had started, but her answers were vague and evasive. It was clear that she was trying to downplay the extent of her betrayal, but I refused to let her off the hook that easily. I needed to know the truth, no matter how painful it might be. As the conversation dragged on, I felt a sense of numbness creeping over me. It was as though I was watching the scene play out from a distance, detached from the reality of the situation. But beneath the surface, a storm raged within me, a whirlwind of emotions that threatened to consume me. Eventually, our conversation reached its inevitable conclusion. We both knew that our marriage was over, that there was no going back from this betrayal. With a heavy heart, I told her that I wanted a divorce, that I couldn't continue to live a lie. She pleaded with me to reconsider, to give her another chance, but I knew that it was too late for that. The trust between us had been shattered irreparably, and there was no way to rebuild what had been lost. In that moment, I realized that our marriage was nothing but a facade, a hollow shell of what it once was. As I walked away from her, leaving behind the shattered remnants of our life together, I felt a sense of liberation wash over me. Yes, the road ahead would be difficult, filled with uncertainty and heartache, but it was a journey that I knew I had to take. For in the ashes of our broken marriage, I saw the glimmer of a new beginning, a chance to rebuild my life on my own terms. And as I stepped into the unknown, I knew that I was finally free. I headed outside to join my wife and the kids on the back porch. As soon as I stepped out, my wife excitedly showed me a gift she had bought for Sammy, our daughter. It was a present Sammy had picked out for her upcoming birthday, which wasn't until October. I was puzzled and asked why she had bought it so early. Her response caught me off guard. She simply said she wanted to give it to Sammy now. This was unexpected because Sammy hadn't been asking about the gift and wasn't anticipating it until her birthday. Moreover, we had a clear understanding with Sammy about when she would receive large gifts, only on her birthday and Christmas. Sammy had never mentioned the gift again since she picked it out a couple of months ago. My wife tried to justify the purchase by saying that Sammy had been exceptionally good lately and deserved a reward. She asked if I was upset, and although I said I wasn't, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was a form of bribery for Sammy to keep my wife's secret. When my wife presented the gift to Sammy, she hesitated, expressing concern that she wasn't supposed to receive it until her birthday. Sammy insisted on waiting and refused to open it then and there. Despite my wife's attempts to coax her, Sammy stood her ground and looked to me for support. I intervened, suggesting we take the gift upstairs and store it in her closet. My wife was taken aback by Sammy's reaction, but I wasn't surprised. Sammy is incredibly astute, and her reluctance to accept the gift until her birthday was a testament to her maturity. We took the gift upstairs, and Sammy seemed relieved not to have to open it immediately. Throughout the day, I tried to enjoy the family gathering, but my mind kept drifting back to what Sammy had told me. Later that night, I contemplated confronting my wife about it but decided against it. Instead, I pretended to have work to do early the next morning and discreetly checked our home computer and my wife's phone for any signs of wrongdoing. Yet, I found nothing incriminating. Despite my initial doubts, Sammy's detailed account of the events made me question whether she had fabricated the story. However, Her honesty and integrity were undeniable, leaving me unsettled and uncertain about how to proceed. We spent the day at my parents', catching up with my aunt and uncle who had flown in from out of town. It had been over 2 years since I last saw them, so it was a great opportunity to reconnect and introduce them to Timmy, whom they hadn't met yet. The day went smoothly, and everything seemed normal with Dee. She was her usual self, showing no signs of anything unusual. Back at work on Monday, though, Sammy's words continued to weigh on my mind. Several times during the day, I found myself driving past our home, hoping to ease my growing suspicion. This pattern repeated on Tuesday and Wednesday, but each time, there was nothing to validate Sammy's claim. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that she might be onto something. Contemplating hiring a private investigator, I instead opted to purchase a camera system from Best Buy. I installed it while Dudra and Sammy were out at an evening event, positioning cameras discreetly around the house, one near the garage, another in the living room, and a third in our master bedroom. I took care to place them where they wouldn't be easily noticed, though I worried that Dedra might spot the one in our bedroom. Despite my concerns, it blended in well with the crown molding, virtually invisible unless you were looking straight at it from a particular angle. Every day before leaving for work, I activated the camera system and switched it off upon returning home. Given that my wife and kids didn't spend much time at home during the day, I hoped the cameras would provide some clarity without causing undue alarm. The tension in the air was palpable as we entered the bedroom. My heart pounded in my chest, drowning out any other sound. With my brother and uncle close behind, I felt a mix of anger, betrayal, and a strange sense of detachment as I confronted the scene before me. Daedra's scream pierced the silence, followed by Brock's frantic attempts to apologize and cover himself. My phone, held firmly in my hand, became a silent witness to the painful unraveling of my marriage. I stood there, rooted to the spot, my mind racing with a whirlwind of emotions. Daedra's tear-stained face, hidden behind the sheets, begged for forgiveness, but her words fell on deaf ears. The weight of her betrayal hung heavy in the air, suffocating any remnants of trust or love that had once existed between us. I felt a surge of anger rise within me, threatening to consume everything in its path. Yet, amid the chaos of the moment, I remained eerily calm. Perhaps it was shock, or maybe a deep-seated resolve to see the truth through to the end. Whatever the reason, I stood there in silence, letting the gravity of the situation sink in. As Brock scrambled to dress himself and flee the scene, I couldn't help but feel a sense of pity for him. He was just a pawn in this twisted game of betrayal, caught in the crossfire of someone else's deception. But my focus remained squarely on Dedra, whose tearful apologies and pleas only served to deepen the chasm between us. In that moment, I knew that our marriage was over. The trust that had once bound us together had been shattered beyond repair, leaving nothing but the hollow echoes of what once was. And as I stood there, silently recording the painful demise of our relationship, I couldn't help but wonder how we had reached this point. But there was no time for reflection, no room for second-guessing. With a heavy heart and a steely resolve, I knew that I had to confront the truth head-on and begin the difficult process of moving forward. And as I looked around the room at the shattered remnants of our life together, I knew that this was just the beginning of a long and painful journey toward healing and closure. I love you so much. I'm so sorry. Brock's voice trembled with regret as he sat on the floor, his hands shielding his face from the weight of his actions. Meanwhile, my wife's tears flowed unabated, her apologies mingling with his. Despite the emotional turmoil, I couldn't afford to dwell on their remorse. Urgency pulsed through me as I instructed Brock to leave, ensuring he understood that his truck was hemmed in and wouldn't budge until the contracting company retrieved it. With a call to my mother-in-law, I recounted the distressing events and requested her immediate presence to collect her daughter. Underneath the covers, my wife pleaded with me, her voice tinged with desperation, begging me not to cast her out. But my resolve remained unyielding. When my mother-in-law arrived, her arrival marked by a storm of scolding words, my wife, resigned, left without protest. Head bowed in a mixture of shock and humiliation, she exited in silence, leaving behind a trail of tears. Once they departed, I sought solace in the embrace of my children, their innocent presence a balm to my wounded spirit. But even as I comforted them, my thoughts churned with plans for what lay ahead. Contacting the contracting company, I relayed the gravity of the situation to the owner, who expressed sincere remorse and pledged to rectify the damage caused. Later that day, a visit from the company saw Brock's truck towed away, a silent testament to the upheaval wrought by his actions. But even as tangible evidence of the betrayal was removed, the emotional scars lingered, a constant reminder of shattered trust and broken vows. In the days that followed, I took decisive action, seeking legal counsel to initiate divorce proceedings and secure representation against the contracting company. Despite my wife's persistent attempts at reconciliation, I remained steadfast, guided by the advice of my attorney. With her belongings packed and removed by my brother and a trusted friend, my wife's presence in my life dwindled to a distant memory. Though the pain of betrayal continued to haunt me, I refused to be consumed by it. Instead, I focused on rebuilding what had been shattered, determined to emerge from the darkness stronger and wiser than before. I established a strict routine to minimize interaction with my wife. Every morning, at 6:30 a.m., her mother would arrive at my house. While her mom entered, my wife lingered in the car until I left for work. I'd labor until 5 p.m., then dine out before returning home by 6:30 p.m. There, my wife and her mother would share dinner with the kids, while I informed my mother-in-law of my imminent arrival with a phone call. Upon reaching home, I'd bypass my wife waiting in the car and head straight indoors. A brief exchange with my mother-in-law would ensue before she departed, leaving me to spend the ensuing 12 hours solely with my children, repeating this cycle without deviation, 7 days a week. To some, this regimen might seem extreme, but it was a deliberate attempt to distance myself from my wife. While I harbored deep anger towards her, particularly for her indiscretions with another man while our children slept nearby, compounded by her instruction to our daughter to conceal her actions, such transgressions were irreconcilable to me. Despite my desire for full custody, legal counsel advised that such a result was unlikely. However, the possibility of attaining 50/50 custody remained, with my home designated as the primary residence for our children. Meanwhile, my wife persisted in her belief that she could win me back, offering various inducements and futile attempts to sway my resolve. I can't believe I'm about to say this, but it's true, my world turned upside down when I discovered my wife's infidelity. It was like a punch to the gut, knocking the wind out of me and leaving me gasping for air. Let me rewind a bit and give you some context. My wife, whom I'll refer to as Deidre, and I had what I thought was a solid marriage. We had been together for years, weathering life's storms and celebrating its joys together. We had 2 beautiful children, Sammy and Timmy, who were the light of our lives. Our family felt complete, and I couldn't have been happier. But then, out of nowhere, came the bombshell. It all started innocently enough, with a casual conversation with Sammy. She innocently mentioned seeing something unusual while I was away, and my heart sank as she recounted seeing Deidre with another man. At first, I couldn't believe it. It felt like a nightmare, but deep down, I knew there was truth to Sammy's words. The shock and betrayal hit me like a ton of bricks. How could Deidre, the woman I loved and trusted, do this to our family? I struggled to come to terms with the reality of the situation, grappling with a whirlwind of emotions ranging from disbelief to anger to profound sadness. Despite my inner turmoil, I knew I had to confront the situation head-on. I couldn't let it fester in the shadows, poisoning our marriage and our family. So, I took decisive action. I installed security cameras in our home, hoping to either confirm or dispel my suspicions. What I saw on those cameras shattered me to the core. There, plain as day, was Deidre, engaging in intimate moments with another man. It was like a knife through the heart, each image a painful reminder of the betrayal I had endured. But perhaps the most devastating part was Deidre's reaction when confronted. Instead of remorse or regret, she seemed more concerned with saving face, offering feeble excuses and empty apologies. It was then that I realized our marriage was irreparably broken, a casualty of her infidelity. In the aftermath of the revelation, I grappled with the fallout, navigating the complexities of divorce proceedings and custody arrangements. It was a painful process, filled with heartache and uncertainty. But through it all, my priority remained clear: protecting my children and ensuring their well-being. As I reflect on the events that led to the end of my marriage, I'm reminded of the fragility of trust and the importance of honesty in any relationship. While the pain of betrayal may never fully fade, I take solace in knowing that I have emerged stronger and more resilient, ready to face whatever the future may hold. When I embarked on my daily routine, leaving for work with the sunrise, a poignant realization lingered with me like a haunting melody. My life, once a harmonious symphony, had descended into discordant notes of betrayal and heartache. As the morning sun painted the sky with hues of promise, my heart remained shrouded in the shadow of betrayal, an unwelcome companion on my journey to the office. The mornings began with a solemn ritual, as my estranged wife would tend to the children's needs before escorting them back to her abode, a place where the absence of warmth mirrored the icy grip of our fractured relationship. She confided in me, revealing how Daedra, consumed by her inner turmoil, sought solace in tears and solitude, a far cry from the vivacious spirit she once embodied. Witnessing this transformation left an indelible mark on our daughter, whose innocent inquiry pierced through the facade of normalcy, demanding answers to the silent agony that enveloped her mother's existence. It was a conversation I never anticipated having, delicately weaving threads of truth amidst the tangled web of betrayal and broken promises. Yet, the saga of turmoil did not cease at the threshold of domestic strife. With each passing day, as the impending divorce proceedings loomed closer, Daedra's desperation seemed to intensify, manifesting in a flurry of calls and messages that served as a haunting reminder of the love we once shared. In her pleas for reconciliation, she painted a vivid tapestry of promises and pledges, each stroke a poignant reminder of the dreams we once harbored together. But fate had other plans, as the eve of the final hearing brought forth a harrowing twist. A frantic call from my mother-in-law shattered the semblance of normalcy, revealing Daedra's sudden hospitalization due to severe dehydration. The revelation struck a discordant chord, prompting speculation of ulterior motives behind her sudden ailment. Was it a ploy to delay the inevitable, a desperate bid to prolong the agony of separation? Such questions lingered, casting a shadow of doubt upon the sincerity of her intentions. As the legal battle ensued, navigating the treacherous waters of asset division and custody arrangements, I found solace in the unwavering support of my legal counsel and the assurance of justice prevailing. Armed with irrefutable evidence of Daedra's infidelity, the scales of justice tipped in my favor, granting me a semblance of closure amidst the chaos. In the aftermath of the divorce, as I stood amidst the debris of broken vows and shattered dreams, a glimmer of hope emerged from the ashes. Despite the scars of betrayal etched upon my heart, I found solace in the knowledge that with each passing day, the wounds would heal, paving the way for a brighter tomorrow. And so, as I navigated the labyrinth of post-divorce life, reclaiming my identity and forging a new path forward, I held on to the belief that amidst the ashes of destruction, the seeds of resilience would sprout, heralding a new beginning filled with hope and redemption. I find myself in a perplexing situation regarding the division of expenses for our primary residence. While I'm dutifully covering my 50% share, I'm also shouldering the burden of her 50%. This arrangement raises questions about fairness, particularly considering the skewed nature of the court system favoring mothers. Despite these challenges, we persist with our 6:30 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. custody arrangement, ensuring our children benefit from daily interactions with both parents. Communication with my ex-wife remains limited to matters concerning our children. Any inquiries about personal well-being are swiftly redirected towards the kids. Many have inquired whether I've shared the unsettling revelation from Sammy about her witnessing her mother with another man. To this, I must clarify that I've kept the promise of secrecy made to Sammy, and I have no intention of disclosing this information anytime soon. While I may consider revealing the truth to Sammy in the distant future, for now, I hope she has forgotten about the incident entirely. As my narrative draws to a close, I acknowledge that it may not be the fairy tale ending many hoped for. Nonetheless, given the circumstances, it's as favorable an outcome as one could hope for. Thank you for your attention. Like, comment, and subscribe if you found the video insightful. Until next time, take care.